Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Booktube Chicks Book Club for the month of March. In March, we read Before She Ignites by Jodi Meadows, which my lovely co-hosts are holding up for me since I don't have a copy. So tonight we are going to be talking about this book. Our live shows normally we start with a synopsis and then a general thoughts, non-spoiler section before we go into spoilers. And Kathleen only has 15 minutes with us, so we're going to let her jump right in to the synopsis and her overall thoughts.
Okay. So this is a YA fantasy, and it is set in a world where basically the myth is that these ancient gods, they're fallen gods, and they created these islands. And the islands, each different island has its own culture, and they each worship said god of that particular island. So our main character, she is an important person within the island that she resides. She's kind of like their public figure. She's the one who lets the people know what the government is doing, stuff like that. She's their spokesperson, basically. And she is named after the treaty that the islands have between themselves to kind of keep the peace, kind of thing. She one day discovers that the governments of these islands are doing something very bad, incriminating, that goes against the treaty. And she tries to bring this to light and try to let the public know, kind of try to stop the betrayal and what is happening. And she gets thrown in prison. It's called a pit. And basically there's also dragons in this. So she now has to decide on how to save the dragons, because the dragons are in danger, and she has to figure out how to let the people know that the treaty is being violated, and she has to figure out how to get out of the pit. My initial thoughts going into this book is that I was not expecting much, mostly because Chloe, she read the book first and she did not like it. And last time this happened was last year when we read Reverie, and I ended up hating the book also. So I was kind of going into this book with low expectations, and I ended up really loving the book. I liked how the story was told. It had a nice pace to it. I did like, our main character was really frustrating sometimes, because I feel like she was a lot too much of a pushover, and I was like, girl, grow a backbone. But she ended up growing on me, and I liked our love interest, and everything in general about this book I really, really enjoyed. So I went into this book expecting to hate it, and I ended up really loving it, to the point where I actually gave this book 5 stars, and I already ordered the second book, and it's on its way to me, and I really cannot wait to read it.
Desiree?
So I don't know if I definitely enjoyed the story, and I enjoyed the book, and I want to jump into the next one because I feel like very attached to all of the characters, actually. And, I want to know what happens to the dragons and how this continues, because there's 2 more books. So it's going to be a pretty long fight against the government and their enemies and the Algadi Empire and who else. So I'm sure we're going to find out that there's like a lot more involved. That's, because there were a lot of unanswered questions at the end of the book still, I feel like. But I did really enjoy it. I did like the love interest. I liked the pacing of everything. Like Kat, though, my only complaint was that it felt like the main character was really, really lacking self-awareness. I know she had like anxiety and she would panic frequently, and she was trying to cope with that throughout the whole book, but it seemed like she had no grasp on her own strengths. And it was just like, girl, you just did this crazy thing and you're over here saying how weak you are. Like, did you not see yourself like 10 minutes ago and what you did? So she lacked self-awareness, and I thought that was kind of annoying. But throughout the story, we kind of get to see her find her power and what that means. So I really liked it, and I'd say I'd give it like 4 stars.
So I'm the opposite from everybody. I'd like to start off by saying that this book has no audiobook. And I don't know why.
Yeah, I'm surprised because Jodi Meadows is a well-known author, and I figure like people who don't have audio, like authors who don't have audiobooks, are like debut authors.
Yeah, it's like,
or like where the publisher wants to like see how the book goes before they release the audio. But Jodi Meadows is a pretty well-known author, so I was surprised that there was no audio.
And I'm the type of person, because I don't read a ton of fantasy. I have some fantasy that I read, but not a ton like you guys do. So whenever I have a book like this where I'm not sure how I'm going to feel about it, I like to listen to the audiobook. I think it's way easier for me to be able to get through it. And I've done that with many of our books before. Not to say that I can't read a book normally. Honestly, I feel like the synopsis for this book needs to be rewritten, because I feel like I went in thinking one thing and got what we had instead. So I more of expected like the story of leading up to, I don't want to spoil it, but I expected like a bunch of like leading up to certain things, which would then go into the second book. Essentially, I gave this book a 1.5 star. I think that's my worst rating since Reverie. I think that's actually worse than Reverie. And honestly, the half star is only there for like very brief sections that I found interesting. And the fact that the chapters were short was a definite perk. I found myself very confused with the back and forth in the time jumps, which it threw me off, especially because the before sections are at like many different points in time. So and there were days where, like, stretches of days where I just wouldn't touch the book, and I was worried that I was going to go into a reading slump because of how much I wasn't enjoying it. So I think it's safe to say that I won't continue on with the series. And honestly, if it wasn't for book club, I would have DNF'd it, which is unfortunate because I really like what Jodi Meadows does with Cynthia Hand and Brody Ashton. But I guess I just don't like what she does by herself. So I guess on that note, we can go into spoilers. What do you guys think?
Okay, let's talk about this main character. She frustrated the hell out of me. She was so like, she's such a pushover. Like I understand she has like this anxiety that sometimes consumes her, and she has to and she didn't have her like her medication to help her deal with her anxiety, so she kind of had to rely on her counting and to rely on herself really to make sure to get through these panic attacks. But she frustrated me so much that she easily gave up. And like, for example, I can't put myself in her shoes because I don't know what it's like to be in complete darkness for 4 days, and to the point where you're practically starving and you have no water, and I'm sure that's traumatizing. But if you have something that important to you that you want to keep a secret, and this guy is threatening your life, why is your comfort much more important than the secret that you're holding on to? It like you let yourself go through 4 days of torture, and like you're just gonna easily get like that torture just basically means nothing because you easily gave away your secret to him as soon as he threatened to put you in darkness again. So I guess, like I said, I can't say that I would do the same, but I feel like personally I would push back a little, and I feel like she just gave up too easily, and too many times she gave up too easily, and it really frustrated me how much of a lack of backbone she had sometimes, and it made me angry.
I kind of wish that this
go ahead. Oh, I was just going to say that I kind of felt the opposite in regards to what she was doing. I know she was kind of shaped and molded from a child. Like throughout the whole book, you're hearing her talk about how much her mom used to criticize her and put her down. So like she was basically conditioned to be a servant of everyone else, of, you know, whoever asked something of her. And she was, and she was like the mouthpiece of the Luminary Council. But even despite that, when it came to a point where she saw something wrong was happening, that the treaty was not being abided by, or that, you know, the dragons were being harmed or whatever, like that's how she ended up in the pit. Because she stood up and she was like, no, this is wrong. Like, she tried to come forward to tell them what was happening, and then they just threw her in there. And then when they like pulled her out and she had an opportunity to like stay out, all she had to do was read off that speech. She again was like, no, I'm not going to do this. So,
I mean, that was the one point I was like, it's about time this girl goes back home. I was just like, but like, yeah, I mean, obviously it was towards the endish, like the second third of, I mean, the last third of the book that happened. So I was expecting her to do something. And I knew that she had a soft spot for the hardened people because I don't know how to pronounce his name, her bodyguard. I know that he's a hardened man, boy, and she obviously loves him, and she believes that these people deserve equality under the treaty. And, you know, I knew she wasn't going to betray him like that by reading off the speech, but I also didn't know what she was going to do in some ways, because, again, I do feel like she was really spineless for a lot of the book. But yeah, you're right. She does have these moments where she does surprise me with the fact that she has a personality and she's not just a puppet. But I was frustrated with her sometimes, occasionally.
I wish this book was written in more. I don't know how the other books are going to go, but I kind of wish it was written more of in a chronological sense, because I feel like it would have, at least for me, flowed better into understanding how she made it to the pit. So even if you had like half the book leading up to her going to the pit and the second half of being in the pit, I feel like it would have flowed better for me personally. The back and forth threw me off a lot, especially in the beginning, when it's like, okay, here's a present. Now it's before times, but it's 6 years ago. Okay, now we're back at the present. Now it's before times, but it's 2 weeks ago. And stuff. Does that make sense?
I understand what you're getting, and I agree that some, like, not this particular book, but some books, there is the jumping back and forth, and it can, if you don't do it well, it can be very confusing. And perhaps she should have written in a way that, you know, it's like part 1, part 2, and part 1 was before, part 2 was present. But I personally did not have an issue understanding, like following the timeline. To me, it did flow in my head. But I can see why some people would be confused with the back and forth, because I have experienced that before with other authors who did the timeline jump, and I personally didn't like it because it just confused the heck out of me.
Even though, like, the jumps, as you're suggesting, were not were kind of all over the place in time, I felt like she always set up the vision or the memory, like the flashback, because at the end of the previous chapter, something would be happening that related to the memory that was in the time jump. So I guess that's why I felt like it was easy to follow. For example, there was a point where Tirta, I don't know if that's how you pronounce her name, Tirta was talking about like her hair, and, you know, when the last time it had been rolled up or braided or whatever, and then the next flashback was of her getting her hair done by the person that used to do her hair. So that's why I found it kind of relatively easy to follow. But okay.
I didn't have a thought. You're good, Desiree. You can go.
I really, really liked the romance, I guess you could call it. Although I'm wondering if they're setting it up for like a love triangle.
I was thinking that too, and I was like, don't do this. Don't do this. Auru, whatever his name is, I like him, and like, don't get me wrong, I like the bodyguard guy too, but I was like, don't do this. Like, she has this, in my opinion, this beautiful connection with this guy who, saved her life when she was like severely dehydrated, and I was just like, I really like their connection, their relation, and I if she does a triangle, I'm going to be very upset.
I like their connection, but I thought instead of more of like a romantic way, I thought of it in more of like companionship for like a good length of the book, just because they don't, there's not really anybody to talk to, and he helped her and stuff like that. For the most part, I didn't really get like romance until towards the end.
Yeah.
I thought of it more as like comfortable companionship.
Yeah, I was saying the first half of the book, when I love their first interaction when he tells her she talks too much, because that's exactly what I was thinking when I was reading that scene. I was like, she talks way too much. But yeah, in the first, like, I would say first half of the book, I was like, I'm not like, I didn't see a romance between them. I saw them just kind of like two people who are in this horrible situation, and they're kind of just how should I put this? They're looking for companionship in this horrible place. So, and then I started seeing hints of maybe something more, and I was like, okay, I'm okay with this, but only because by then I already really liked them.
I feel like though she made it very angsty is not the word that I'm looking for. Like, she created tension. She created physical tension between them, because you have these two people in two connecting cells, right? So they're isolated and alone. She had to get under her bed to be able to access that hole, and they would still reach out to each other through it. So I feel like the way she described those moments, and their fingers gracing each other, and like the electricity that she would feel, I think, despite the fact that not much really happens between them, it's not like they ever kiss or hug or embrace or anything like that. So it's really just like the brief moments where their fingers touch and stuff. I feel like she just did that really well in regards to building tension between them.
Yeah. Okay, so I have to go. But yeah, love this book. 5 stars. Guys, have a great live show.
Right. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Okay.
So I kind of wrote out I had this great idea. Okay. You know how sometimes in the back of books, publishers will add in like questions for your book club. Why have I never thought about using them? Like, why have we never used them?
Does this book have that?
No. So
okay, I was like, I don't think it's
So what I did was I Googled them, like, questions for book club, because I was like, somebody's got to have some, like, somewhere. And I found some questions to help spur along our conversation. But I put them on the spreadsheet, but apparently I didn't finish, because there's 5 questions, and then there's a space for question 6, but I left it blank. So I must have gotten distracted and never finished it. So let's see. Well, we kind of already covered what did you think about how the story is told with the present and flashback. Right. I didn't think about this while I was reading it, but it makes so much sense now looking back on it. What did you think about the anxiety rep? Because there is rep.
So it's really, really interesting. I had a little bit of like an anxiety episode last night, which is why I didn't read last night after our Jaxbox games after I wanted to. But I felt like it was described in a very familiar way. Like, I could relate to the moments she was having, whether she was talking about how her vision would start to change and her heart rate would accelerate. And I don't think I've ever tried counting. I know they usually say to just like focus on your breath to occupy your mind so that you can stop thinking about the stress. But it's like, it's hard when you're in the throes of a panic attack. It's really hard to come out of it. So like, yay for her to being able to pull herself out of it. And then especially because like she mentioned that she had pills to help her deal with it that they took away from her. So like I just feel like it must have taken a lot of inner strength for her to deal with those moments. But I'm wondering, and I don't think this was ever necessarily clear, maybe it'll become clear like later on, but I'm wondering if like some of her anxiety was also like her accessing her own power and having it like overwhelm her. Because it kind of seems like maybe that's what they were setting up for it to do. But I don't know. I found the anxiety rip to be very familiar and relatable.
Yeah, and I don't know of too many books that solely really have anxiety rep. I mean, you might be able to think of some, but I can't think of any off the top of my head at the moment.
I think Eliza and Her Monsters is the only one I can remember.
Yeah, so there's not too many that like I can think of that would have anxiety rep. So if somebody's looking for that representation, here it is. In this book, which, you know, I'm still bummed that I didn't like as much.
Who knows? Maybe if like I'm still surprised there is no audiobook, especially with the third book already being out. Like I figured, because a lot of times series get dropped if they don't do well. So the fact that the series was finished and completed, like should signal that enough people bought it that they would want to make an audiobook. I don't know.
Let's see. Somebody said that A Song of Wraiths and Ruin has anxiety rep. So I've never read that, but I have seen it going around a lot.
Okay. I actually have that.
Yeah, I think I recognize the cover. I've seen it going around a lot on the book internet. So there's another one for anxiety rep.
Yeah, I think that's also like fantasy.
Yeah. That's the thing. Like, I mean, yeah, you know me. I don't hate fantasy. Is it the first thing I'll go to? No. But like I you know, there's some like I read some high fantasy. Like, I mean, looking behind me right now, like there's Sarah J. Maas, like over there is the Shadowhunters, like Grisha is over here. Like I read some fantasy, but I think it really has to like have something that I like in it. I don't know if I've specifically read anything like with dragons.
Would you say that it maybe has to have more of a focus on the romance? Like,
not necessarily, because I think there's some books that I've read that don't have a romance focus that I've liked just fine. I don't really know what it was about this one, if it was the time skips or what, but this just isn't the fantasy for me, I guess. Like this is like the fantasy for Kat, since she gave it 5 stars and like loved it, but she reads fantasy all the time. So I don't know. I'm bummed.
I didn't mind the pacing, but I can see how some people might read it and think that it was kind of slow. Because, you know, mostly from the beginning, like maybe the first chapter kind of explains a little bit about her delivering a speech about the Mirror Treaty and what the Mirror Treaty is, but then she's already in the cell in the prison. So, you know, a lot of the book is you just trying to guess at what happened and how she ended up there and her coping with her mundane existence in this cell. But I think there was like enough with the characters and with Aru and, you know, her being kind of just annoyed and aggravated by Alton to kind of propel the story forward. So I didn't find it slow or boring personally, but I can see how someone might feel like there wasn't enough going on kind of until the end.
The sections that I found interesting, I'm trying to remember. The ending was with the big breakout was good, but there was a section, I don't have a book to look at, but there was a section towards, I don't know, I think maybe she was finally getting a bath or something like that. And I was like, okay, we're going to see like some outside of just a jail cell. And we're going to see what, you know, what else is going on. I can't remember what it was that I was like, okay, I'm mildly interested now.
Was that like, that was like right before they let her out, I guess. Because they were.
Yeah, that was interesting too. When she was finally like picked up, because I wanted to know where her parents were in all this. Like, were they actively trying to get her out? Was there some other reason?
Right. Like her parents were mentioned a lot, but they're outside of the beginning. You don't ever see them again. So like, what the hell's going on with them? Where are they at? Like,
yeah, because like they're mostly shown in just flashbacks. And I'm like, I want to know what's being actively done to get her out. That's what I want to know.
I'm worried that her parents are involved somehow.
Or if they're not involved, what if they've been like taken?
I don't know. I feel like I don't trust her mom.
You think that oh, go ahead.
Even though her dad was involved in like writing the treaty, I feel like the way her mom treated her seemed pretty like almost like a stepmom.
Yes.
I feel like
she was I didn't like how the
stepmom vibes. Yeah.
So Turta, I think that's how you say it. Do you think she's good? Because apparently she works undercover for the Luminary Council, which is the bad people. So is she good? Like, because she didn't seem to be like trying to do anything bad.
She didn't until the end, though. At the end, then she was trying to arrest Mira. Yeah, she was trying to arrest Mira.
But she was also helping her like get weapons and stuff. So was she trying to arrest her? Was that her plan beforehand? like what's going on with her?
I don't know. I'm wondering if like maybe, because when you have like government stuff, I feel like there's always people that are on the right side, right? Like there'll always be people in there trying to keep things moving, but also paying attention and hoping things will change. And so I'm wondering if there's like a part of the Luminary Council that was not down with everything that was happening. And that's, what Turta is a part of. And that they just wanted to make sure maybe that Mira was on the right side as well before they step forward and they're like, okay, we have to fight, or let's be the resistance, or like whatever the hell.
What if she's a double agent? What if she's a rebel on the inside? What if trying to arrest Mira was just a formality?
Just to get her out of the prison?
Maybe.
Oh, but she was like, I'm already in prison. What are you going to do? What's the point of arresting me?
That's true. Maybe, yeah, but maybe that was just a formality to get her out. And then once she was, I don't know, wherever you need to go, then it's
the one thing that I didn't like kind of in the whole story was how convenient it was for their dragons to show up at the end. Like the whole book, you're seeing glimpses of different dragons, and she's like, but where's my dragon? Where's my dragon? And then all of a sudden they break out of the prison and the dragons are there. I don't know. That just seemed like really convenient.
Yeah, and I was a little confused actually, like how, like why is the dragon suddenly here? I'm confused. So yeah, that was just too convenient. I think. And I feel like, this is, I thought that this was really marketed as a dragon story. I expected there to be more dragons.
Yeah, I did too.
But also I didn't expect the dragons to be like lizards.
Well, some of them are lizards. Like, I don't think you got this. Oh, I don't know if I have it with me, but like, I don't know if this was like the one and only owl crate I had ever gotten for myself, because this is an owl crate version, but there was a booklet that came with this book that described all of the dragons and has a picture of the dragons and kind of tells you what their traits are and stuff. So that was kind of cool. So it tells you like the differences in size and what they're capable of, and
yeah. So
that was neat to see the different types of dragons. I'm hoping that there's going to be way more of that in the series, though.
Yeah, I feel like maybe now that she's out of prison, there's going to be more dragons and more like maybe more understanding of the different like islands, I guess is what they're called. I'm not sure. I don't plan on picking up the second book, so you'll have to tell me. Did you think that when they took Mira out of the prison, and she was like, you know, being treated decently and fed well and all that, only to have to do this speech. Do you think she was gonna like save her own ass and say what they wanted her to
And just
say?
say
Or
I mean, I think she was definitely considering it. And I feel like if maybe she hadn't noticed that her friends were there, that she might have, like, because she would have felt more alone. But I think them being there helped give her a little bit more courage for what she needed to do, and they provided like a sense of safety. So, I mean, obviously that's what I was hoping. I didn't think that that one lady was gonna hurt her after that.
And honestly, I feel like the breakout mission, I mean, obviously it was like a definite fail since they all ended up going to jail. And that kind of wasn't surprising. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that also like edged the story along more, but this book is also huge. So I don't know. I feel like it could knock off like 100 pages.
Well, like throughout the majority of the book, like coming from her mother's voice, you hear about how beautiful she is, and that's like the one thing that she has is her beauty. And now she feels like she doesn't because, you know, Albina, I don't like, you know, sliced her face up, which is horrifying. But I'm wondering like what that's gonna do to shape her character. Because there was that one flashback memory where she was talking about getting her hair done, and she said that the lady had removed her makeup, and she noticed she had like one white spot on her face, which she was talking about it like an imperfection, but she felt like her imperfection made her perfect, made her beautiful. And so I'm wondering if she'll eventually like consider those scars to just be part of her beauty.
You know, talking about her, like how Kat was saying how this character was, Mira, throughout the story, and how she needed to like grow a spine and all that. Like, do you think she's more like, what do you think her overall story arc was? Like, did she grow a spine?
I think so. I mean, like, you know, you kind of have the chosen one trope mixed in here as well. And so I think a lot of her journey was finding her voice and finding her power. And I think she kind of found her voice and her personal power before finding like her supernatural power. So that was nice. I think there was a little separation there because she definitely, when approached by Alton, she was just like, I've had enough of people thinking they can just get me to do what they want to do and hurt other people, and I'm not going to deal with it anymore.
And that's the thing. I want to know, like, if she had, like, when she was born, did her parents know she was going to have these, like, powers? Is that why they named the treaty after her? Like, what makes her so special that a treaty needed to be named after her? And you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, so essentially she's been thrown into politics, even though, like, all she did was be born.
I mean, isn't that how like royalty works and stuff?
I mean, I guess, but are they royalty? Like,
they're powerful people, but are they powerful people because they founded the treaty, or like did they found the treaty because they were powerful people? I don't know. I don't think that was specified.
Yeah, I'm not really sure how that goes. I mean, she even says at one point in the book that she's basically been forced to educate herself on the Mirror Treaty simply because it's named after her. Even though she really has like no say in politics.
I thought the conversation with Alton towards the end was interesting because he was trying to call her attention to something that she had read a million times and like had very specific perceptions of. But he was like, no, you know, when it says this here, they're talking about the Alkali Empire. When have you ever heard anything referred that way? Like the light of the Nor stones or something, or the light of the Nor, I think. But, you know, that's kind of crazy if they put in some secret language to make it be what Alton was saying. I wonder what his motives are. Like, he just a bad dude?
Well, see, I was just wondering if they were going to, like, maybe team up later on. Like, I feel like they both have a common goal now.
I was really hoping that he seemed like a bad guy, but wasn't. But I mean, I don't think that's the case, though, because he's done some douchey things. But I think the way she described him was pretty accurate, that he gave his own power away, and now he feels like he has to control people to feel powerful.
And there were, like, glimpses of him where, like, I didn't think he was going to, like, end up being a bad dude. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, he was so hell-bent on her telling him the truth. And it seemed like he had the dragon's well-being at heart until they pulled out that dragon towards the end that was all, like, strapped up and muzzled and stuff. So I was like, that doesn't sound like how you would treat a dragon if you cared about it.
Yeah. Plus they, wait, are you talking about the one that they threw into the jail area?
Yeah.
Or, okay.
Yeah, that little one. Yeah, the baby one.
And they also had, what was it, towards the, what was I going to say? Where she went and, like, essentially, like, calmed that dragon down so it looked like she controlled it. You remember that?
Yeah.
When she
that was like released by the dock or something.
Yeah, like when she was released from jail.
Yeah, that was actually really sad because there were 2 dragons on the ship that sank. Like, and they just let that happen. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that part.
I guess, like, you know, obviously we have 2, or I have 2 other books to get through before a lot of these questions get answered, but I'm just wondering. I mean, also it's kind of interesting because, you know, you can kind of look at the different islands as like different races with different cultures and stuff like that. So the fact that something like that is happening in the book while real life is what it is, the way it is right now.
That's something that I was thinking of, like when they were explaining, like, or when they had the speech that they wanted her to say, it was basically saying, like, if you're this type of person, you belong on that island.
On your island.
Stay on that island. Yeah.
Which was like, wow. But they tried to spin it like it was a good thing. Like, oh, we want you to preserve your culture, but just do it on your island.
Do it on your own time, essentially.
That's so shitty. And then I don't know who she was talking to. I don't remember her name, but the way they were just like, oh, I had Heartons come into my mind, and then all the North stones went out and it became depleted and whatever. She was like, I lost so much money because of those Heartons. I was like, what the hell, lady? Like, they were not trying to hide their discrimination or their prejudices at all.
Yes.
It was all very, very blatant. I like, you know what I really want to know? How everybody ended up in prison. Because you know about that one girl, the shadow girl?
Oh yeah, I wonder if she's going to have like more of a presence.
I feel like she has to.
Yeah.
Because she has her own superpower ability too, so...
Well, we do know about that one guy who tried to kill Mira and how he ended up there. but I think he's the only one that
Wait.
we know about.
But did he end up there because he tried to kill her?
Yeah, he said it. I think.
Okay, all right. I don't remember what his reasoning was, though.
I can't remember either.
Because as soon as he got let out, instead of thinking about himself and getting out, like he was like, okay, I could finally kill her.
Yes.
Which is just okay. Priorities, dude.
Priority.
I don't know. All right. Well, now I'm wondering if the next book follows Mira's perspective or somebody else's.
Maybe some either the next book or the last book will follow multiple perspectives. Let's see. I don't think I have too much else to say unless you have anything.
I mean, it looks like the same character on all the books. It's before she ignites, as she ascends, when she reigns. So, and there's a dragon tail around her each time.
Yeah, she's the dragon whisperer, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like in the second book she has to deal with her parents and like, what the hell?
Yeah, that's one thing I'm interested in. I want to know where they are, what's their deal, all that.
I don't know. It seems like probably a lot of people are involved, because even her best friend's parents that owns the I don't know what it's called, but the dragon sanctuary. Like, if they weren't involved, they definitely were just like, oh, well, this is what the government's asking, so this is what we have to do. Like, it didn't seem like they tried to put up a fight for people taking the dragons or anything.
It's a conspiracy.
It's a pretty big one. So, well, I don't know if I have that much else to say. But I really liked it. I thought it was good. I thought it was engaging, and maybe it was the shorter chapters, but it felt relatively quick to read, even with it being close to 500 pages.
I agree with that as well. The short chapters definitely, I think, helped. It was a perk. Because when I got this in at the library, I was shocked at how big it was. Like, I didn't realize it was going to be that big. But yeah, it definitely didn't feel like 500 pages. But I also had those days where I like barely read anything because I like couldn't get into it or stuff like that. I wish I'd liked it more.
I don't know if Jodi Meadows has written much else outside of this series herself, but I would definitely check out other stuff if she has.
I think she has her debut series. I think it's a trilogy, but I can't remember what the first book is. I know the cover though. Let me look. I want to say it's like maybe it's called Incarnate. I can't remember. Let me look here. That sounds familiar to me.
Oh, yeah. Incarnate, Infinite.
And it has like the girl's face with like a butterfly.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I was like, I know the cover.
Oh, it sounds like she's written a few things, but it looks to be like mostly fantasy.
Yeah. I think I'm just gonna stick to the Lady Janie's stuff. Because that's just, you really need to read those. Those are so good and they're so funny. So I'm just gonna stick to those. I got nothing.
So what are we reading next?
So next month, I actually have it right here. Next month, we're going to be reading Brightly Burning by Alexa Dunn. This
is sci-fi or fantasy?
I think it's sci-fi. This is her debut book. I actually read her second book, probably about a year ago now. It was like, I remember it was like peak pandemic, like we were all staying home, and I was just like laying by the pool reading it. And I really enjoyed that one. It's set in the same universe as this one, but I don't think you need to read either of them first. But it's set on a like a spaceship essentially, and every continent like has its own spaceship. So I think the one that we're on is called the America, or maybe not. That might have been the other book. Yeah, but it's set in space, and the other one, which is called The Stars We Steal, was really fun, and I really enjoyed that. So I'm really hoping that I like this one. And our live show is, I just looked at it earlier. Hold on.
Wait, this says Brightly Burning is a gothic romantic mystery with hints of Jane Eyre, Marissa Meyer, and Kiera Cass.
That's it. I think it is a retelling too. The other one was a retelling.
Okay, it's a reimagining of Jane Eyre, which I've never read, but I'm curious now.
Can you look up what The Star We Steal was a reimagining of? And our live show is on Sunday, April 25th at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on this channel. And then we do now have an Instagram, so if you haven't followed us on Instagram, go check it out. It is at Booktube Chicks. Same thing with Twitter, is also at Booktube Chicks. Most of our announcements go through Twitter first, but I'm starting to get into the hang of using Instagram. So head on over to both of those and give them a follow so you guys are up to date on all the information going on. I want to say it's also like something classic.
There's no like actual references to anything.
Let's see.
Like not on Amazon anyway. It just says, fans of Catherine McGee and Kiera Cass will be dazzled by this world of lost love and royal intrigue.
Okay, I think I saw it on Goodreads. Hold on, I'm looking real quick. What is it a retelling of?
Maybe it's...
Persuasion? I don't know what that is, though.
Okay.
What's the Persuasion?
Is that by Jane Austen? But it says, stop promoting this novel as persuasion. Persuasion, it is not.
It's not like heavy retelling vibes.
Mm-hmm.
It's like very, very, very loose, which I imagine this one is also going to be very loose.
This is a teen dating romance with little mystery and danger set in a futuristic space.
But it's good.
But that's the Stars We Steal. That's the, yeah.
Yeah, but it's good. Hold on. There is... Because I want to say there is somebody in this book that shares the same last name as somebody in the other book, which is how they're connected. But I can't remember. It might be the person. It says Hugo Fairfax. I want to say Fairfax is right. I'd have to look at the other book. It's been a minute since I read that one. And then I'm also going to be posting on both Twitter and Instagram. We have our next 3 months of books that we're going to be reading. We post them. That's not quarterly. What is that? I don't know. But we post our books 3 months at a time. That's what I'm trying to say. So you guys know what's going on in the future and can be prepared for those live shows coming up. I don't know if I've already posted them or not. I'd have to look. So I think that's everything that we have for this live show. Thank you to everybody who watched and commented. If you're watching the playback, let us know in the comments your thoughts on this book. And we will see you guys next month on April 25th for Brightly Burning by Alexa Dunn. Bye.
Bye.